Hi everyone from Giaco. After living over a decade in Finland, I decided to help building a bridge between the English-speaking people living in Finland and the local community. Listen to my podcast to discover the most interesting and incredible people from Finland and to dig into Finnish culture and controversial issues that impact all of us in our daily life. And now sit back and enjoy listening. Bye! Hi everyone. The following is a conversation with Miro Olsoni, one of the founder of the successful podcast Jäbät ja Tunteet, that would be translated like Dudes and Feelings. With him, we talk about the podcast and the mission he has of reinventing masculinity. We then dive deep in his past and his and my world of emotion, digging our past and our challenges we faced in life. Miro is a wonderful, thoughtful and sensitive person I truly admire and respect. Please enjoy. So, hi Miro, how are you?
Hi, Giacomo. I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. So, welcome for nice and welcome and thank you for being here. Can you just say something about you, who you are, so we give some background?
Of course, yes. And first of all, thank you for inviting me. It's lovely to be here. I'm still a bit in a shock because I just walked through a Man United museum, sort of. But yeah, well, who am I?
Yes.
I'm Miro Olsoni. I'm, I would say today, cultural influencer, podcaster, thinker, speaker, writer, community director. And I work for Marmori. And my main thing right now is, I would say, Jäbät and Tunteet community. And myself, in my former life, I used to be an athlete, football player, and I played till 23 years old, and then I stopped, and then I started to, I kind of went into a very, very dark, bad place, and I kind of, my whole identity before was a footballer, and then kind of when I didn't succeed at getting into the Man United and into the Europe and big leagues and whatsoever, I kind of didn't make it. So after that, I felt like I'm nothing. I don't have any value. So from that, it's been a huge journey. The past, let's say 10 years. I'm now 31.
Yes.
And I've been like searching for myself and on the journey of like figuring things out and healing and learning. That's what I'm doing daily basis, and that's actually telling a lot about me and why I'm here today with you.
And I guess that this journey will never end.
It will.
It will evolve.
It will evolve, and this one sentence came to me this week, that the beauty of the journey is that you will never fully arrive. And that is, like, for me, very powerful, because it means that the journey itself, it's the reward. And it brings me also to enjoy the moment.
You wanted to go deep immediately, but I would like to slightly introduce what Jäbät ja Tunteet is, because it starts with a podcast. Yeah. But now you opened up. You think it embraces much more than just a podcast. It is a community. Yeah, so definitely. It evolved into something much bigger than a single podcast. So if we can rewind the tape and start like. When Jäbät ja Tunteet started, your podcast?
Jäbät ja Tunteet started, actually, the idea, first of all, the idea is our founder's Nosha Lodis, and it's his idea, and he started to have these conversations with me and the other hosts, Nassim Salmani and Jonathan Guzman Monet, and we started to have these conversations 2018, like in our everyday life, and then we just realized that these talks were the things we were missing when we were younger, or like overall there weren't these kind of conversations. So it started very in everyday life kind of conversations, and then we started to meet together every Tuesday, and still to this day we're meeting every Tuesday, and we're talking about like very kind of everyday basic life kind of things, but also emotions. So Jäbät and Tunteet means like dudes and feelings.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we started to share, and we very quickly we realized that it's helping us, and this is actually what we need. And then we wanted to publish it, like put it to the format of podcast, which works perfectly. And now we've been doing like close to 50 episodes and like 2.5 years of podcast, and it started as a podcast, but now we've had like a real community around it. We have people coming to our events and really like getting help out of our content, and then we have Instagram content and TikTok. So has evolved, and already like it's going to the next level. So we see ourselves as a community and a media also that is like enhancing positive masculinity.
So at the beginning it started as something that was useful for you.
Yeah.
But then you realize that actually you can give some value also to the listeners.
Yeah, definitely. So I think that it helps me, and it helps me to help others also.
So is it your mission to help others, or like do you feel that you have some drive inside that pushes you to help others?
Yes, I think it's my mission to help others and like mainstream the change in Finland, in the sense of like our vision is healing masculinities.
Yeah.
Which means that we have a lot of traits and a lot of like internalized things as like men. Yeah. That we need to kind of unlearn and take responsibility of. So I think that is the healing masculinity of like being vulnerable and showing that you can be in a dark place and it's perfectly all right, but also you can get out of there. And I saw it, like I experienced it, and I want to share that story very openly because it can give help and has helped already our community. And people came to me, for example, in the event yesterday, that your podcast really have helped me in my journey. And so,
how did it feel?
Well, like the whole body, like it feels like shivers in the whole body, and like give sense of meaning that is bigger than me. Yeah. It feels amazing. It feels just warm, and
you are a tool. You are not. I mean, you are channeling this to other.
Yeah. I think so. One guy said also in our event yesterday that I haven't had this feeling of being this seen ever in my life before. And from that I was like, if you can give that sense of feeling to someone, I think we found something very precious.
Are you proud?
Yeah. Today I am. I haven't been too much, but I have to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I pick up, you said that the masculinity. So if we first, then before going into that, if in that discourse, in that topic, if you explain what is your idea, what do you mean with that word? So then we understand, are we talking about the same?
Yeah. So about masculinity as a word. Well, masculinity it's like what we see as traditional masculinity, but I think there can be different kinds of masculinities. For example, talk about the healing masculinity. So for me it means that you can be masculine in many different ways. You don't have to have the one model of traditional masculinity that we see, that is very powerful and like very stiff and doesn't bend or whatever. So we wanted to give more like flexibility to the word of masculinity, and then we can express ourselves in a way we feel like, and it doesn't have to do even with the masculinity. We can also pick the parts that we like think is good from the traditional masculinity, and like you can be strong, but you can also be like soft. And softness can be also power, or like the ability of being flexible can be also powerful in the long term. So,
so is it the traditional masculinity? Some adjectives you said. So it's be strong. So you guess it's both physical and probably in the behavior. So being strong, and then you talk about this flexibility. So do you think that in this traditional masculinity concept, masculine person is strict and doesn't like allow things, so I'm trying to understand what is traditional masculinity in your head.
Yeah. Well, how I've seen it and how I've experienced it is it's kind of a limited box in a way where for example, I lived inside of macho culture in football teams and everything related was like super, like almost hyper masculine. So there is very negative traits included in that world. Also, there is positive things, but when it's hyper masculine, there is no room for being weak. For example, you cannot show your feelings. You cannot show who you really are. You're performing to be part of the group. You're performing to trying to be one of the guys in a way. The toughest. And if you're, for example, crying or showing different kind of vulnerabilities, it's a sign of weakness.
Yeah,
in
they
that
tease you or they...
Yeah, it can be like a spot where they can push you in a way. And that's, I think it's very masculine. Traditional masculinity has that trait in it.
Yeah, that's also, that environment seems to be a bit toxic. So that's masculine with the toxicity in it.
Yeah.
So because when you were talking, you said that we have to unlearn masculinity, and I was thinking that to my ears doesn't sound correct or good because it's anyway part of an evolution and a trait, rather than anyway you've been underlined that it probably broadened the spectrum of emotion that a man is allowed to have. So there is no need to unlearn and forget about that, but rather to accept, embrace all the spectrum of the emotions and possible feelings.
Exactly. That's well said. We can just kind of add ways of being to the masculinity and how we see it, and also included parts of being like feminine man is also additional part that you can add to your masculinity if you feel like it. But what I was probably describing or thinking in that sense is that there are some traits that we have internalized that we are not aware of. So then it can be like coming out in some negative ways. Where it can burst. If, for example, if you're not aware of yourself and your feelings, and you cannot like control or like have a tools to like work with yourself and the internalized things, then there can be ways of like taking responsibility of those traits, because we're building a new world here. We're kind of in the middle of a revolution with the Me Too and everything. So the things that were 5 years or 10 years ago, basic things within dudes, for example, we need to have space for that kind of masculinity that takes responsibility of the negative traits.
Re-understand the meaning of the word.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, I pick up a lot of things when you talk that I just would like to make tangents and go sideways. But was it when you started the podcast, so it was a group of friends that understood that they need, or that they have this part inside them that it's not necessarily shown, but it needed to be shown to other and exposed to other. So the group of your friends, of course, they were at the same wavelength, so they understood you. Were you afraid of going out and say to the whole world, like, okay, actually, this is us, or did you have like did you try to expand to other friends this your small world? Did you test a bit, kind of like how? Because it seems that like, okay, I feel that I need to talk, and then we make a podcast. It's kind of like a huge jump. Was there somewhere in between? Did you check like how other people react? Because at the end you are successful. To me, this resonates, and to many other people it resonates. So did you expand little by little your influence to other people and realized, okay, this is actually something bigger than us?
Well, I think the impact is starting to now show in the like society and the feedback that we've been having like recently, but we didn't think about it too much. We just wanted to create a channel or like a way of talking that didn't exist when we were younger, when we would have really needed it before. Because in all of our guys' stories, there is this part of like, I had this feeling, but I thought I was alone. I felt like this, but I thought I was crazy, and I needed therapy, but I didn't want to go because I didn't want to be weak, or I didn't want to be seen as crazy. For example, myself, 5 years ago, still it was a huge taboo. Still nowadays, it's not therapy, for example, which is super good. So I saw myself that I feel like this. Maybe I'm crazy if I go to therapy. So I was super depressed, but I didn't want to go because of how I thought how people gonna see me after that.
Even if the person that you would have potentially gone to was a professional doing that, it's kind of like my hand is broken. I don't go to the doctor because he thinks that I am.
But yeah.
But then when you go into the feeling.
But yeah, I didn't think like that, and also. Big part of my story is that I couldn't talk also. I couldn't be vulnerable about my stuff. I keep everything to myself. And I think that's also, especially in Finland, we're kind of turning inward in a negative way. It's most of the time it's dark and like we're a bit melancholic and all that.
A bit.
So we keep stuff a lot to ourselves, and it's kind of heavy. It starts to feel in the body. And I was there 25 years. Keeping everything to myself and trying to just survive and feeling like shit, especially when I lost my identity. That was the low point for me. But from there, slowly I started to like realize that it's strength to share and it helps me. And that was the feeling. That is the reason why I'm sharing very openly nowadays.
Yeah, and thank you, I can see.
Thank you.
Of course, I understand Finnish, so I can listen to your podcast, but it seems that there is almost no boundary to your conversations. I think it's...
you feel like that?
Yeah, I think that if someone would drop whatever question, you would answer. And it's the way you are truthful and you express yourself also shows the mental process you put into that. It's not like an answer that would come from a shelf, like, okay, that is that's the right thing to say at the moment. It seems that you anyway pass through that you have been thinking about stuff. Thank you for sharing that you have lost your identity. Can we go back to that time and tell more? You said that you were playing in the football team and then you realized, or what was the reason that you understood that that's not actually the way forward, that you failed, or maybe life has closed the door for you? So what happened next? Then you started to talk at one point. What was the moment in which you actually said like, okay, now I have to? Because probably you were quite kind of in a dark place, as you said.
Yeah, I was.
And how did you realize that that's the route, and you know there are other options, depression. Hopefully maybe you contemplated even hurt yourself or other situations. So how did this story turn into this blooming flower?
That's a good question. I think I'm kind of in the middle of the process still, but like in the early beginning of starting to bloom.
But you chose one direction.
Yeah, well, that's a good thing. I could have chosen many things, and I'm glad that I'm sitting here and talking openly. I think that I was like, when I was after the identity crisis, I didn't know what to do, and I didn't know who I am, and I lost kind of all. And what is really concerning here is that I was 23 years old. Young boy, even, I would say, still like a young guy. And it's very sad to think back and think that that guy really thought that this was the only chance you will get in life. And if you didn't make it as a footballer, there's nothing else after that. That was my headspace where I was in that moment.
But you were invested in that. So
I was fully invested, at least 20 first years of my life. I played in the national team, like I was captain of the team. I played even with older guys. I peaked when I was like 16 to 18, so too early. And I wasn't ready. I wasn't mentally ready. I didn't live 10 years ago or more, people weren't living as athletes yet so much. Yeah. So there was a lot of around it, like alcohol, In my case, for example, I started drinking when I was 13 years old, which is too early, and
of course,
and it affected. And also then I think I burned out already in high school with training and traveling, because of training so much and traveling also. Like, I was burned out already back in the days. I wasn't mentally fit. I wasn't.
But yes, you know, like a small, I will give you maybe a patch that you can put to your story, you know, that your brain is and your frontal cortex is not developed until you are like 40 to 25. So you were young. You were like in a body of a grown up, or at least a grown up teen, but your brain was not formed. So you should give yourself also a bit of slack. And you anyway, if you don't live the dream fully, trying to achieve it, you will not anyway achieve it. So in a certain sense, you've done everything correct. You're saying that it's sorry to see that, probably because of your trauma, but otherwise it seems to me that it brought you to somewhere much further.
Maybe that's also a good point. But I was also very like sad about it for a very long time, which was actually blocking me for getting anything done or thinking about it anything other is possible. I was, what is the word, katkera? It's like
so you were pissed, or
pissed, but also like
resentant, that you were resenting.
Yeah. I was like living in the past, let's say, because of I didn't make it.
Yeah.
And that was the feeling that was keeping me like still for a very long time.
Attached to that.
Yeah, attached to that. Like
I like, sorry if I interrupt you, but I like to see past and my own as the only way in which the product that I am now would have come. So it is a tool. And that's why I tend not to, regardless also me losing a couple of times my identity and going through many difficult things, regardless, there would be no better version of myself alive unless those would have happened. So in a sense, like, I like and I'm happy and glad that I had my dark times, because otherwise I would not be the person I am. And you've been stuck thinking about the past and thinking like, okay, I lost years and I was seeing all that, but now you have a community of people that you are elevating.
Yeah.
Would you go back and change? I mean, this is part of your evolving.
Yeah, that's a good question, and I think part of me still is hurt from that trauma of not getting to be in Man United, play in the top leagues in Europe. Still, I'm struggling with it, and I'm just honest about it. Yeah. I can see that some little parts are still, but I've learned to also let go and attach, and it's been like years and years of like working with myself and process and like accepting and forgiving also, and just being honest with myself. And right now it feels like actually that it was meant to be.
Exactly. That's
that way.
Yes, you packet all of my way in my saying in one single sentence.
Yeah,
it was meant to be to arrive into this like version of yourself that it's an upgrade.
And this is why well, not because this is Noshi stories, why Jäbät and Tunteet is in the first place started, but the reason why I'm there is that story and how I went like about my journey and sharing for younger guys, for example, to not maybe go the same or not even that everyone has to have their own path, but like being aware of the things that can help you earlier to realize and be self-aware of many things, and at least like open in their self, that they feel like they don't have to like fit into this box of only thing that is seen as masculine thing, for example in sports or overall in masculinity.
Can I challenge that?
You can, yeah.
Do you have kids?
I don't have kids.
I totally understand what you're saying, and maybe my vision it's slightly different because I have kids, but maybe it works with fire. You can say to a kid, don't touch it, because somehow maybe we have it built in. But for for the emotional experiences and the choices in life, there is no way in which you can prevent other to do things. So this way, it's you have a noble thought there that you want and help others to and help them prevent doing certain kind of things. But that, in my vision of life, it's not possible, and I see it through maybe my kids because they anyway will go toward difficulties, but it's creating the environment around, safe environment. And I think it's actually something that you are creating, this safe environment that, like, okay, there will be now, maybe someone will listen, another guy listen, this girl, that like, okay, now I'm going through this phase. It's okay to go through that phase because you know that around you there is a safety net that will take you when you fall. And I think that is important what you are offering. I'm not gonna offer my kids a set of rules. Don't do this, don't do that, don't go there. It's rather that, like, okay, when you're hurt, be aware that you are not the only one, and this is something you said. And that there is someone that is ready to listen and give you the thing you need. That might be care, that might be companionship, that might be talking, that might be go to the doctor if you broke something. So I think you're offering now, you're showing to people that actually they can open and they have friends around that can be a safety net. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Don't challenge the fact that you can. I've kind of challenged the fact that you want to prevent others to go through the pain you did, and it's a noble thought. Extremely.
That is a good point, and maybe that's why we're like building community that will not change the individual, but change how we see as collective what is like part of manhood, for example, because you can provide as a like traditional masculine and be like around of people, but you also we are kind of challenging the only way where there hasn't been room enough to show the vulnerable side. So for example, I think your speech includes the part where you are capable of letting all the feelings come and show to your kids when you're feeling sorrow or grief and show it like physically and like and talk about it and be open about it. And that's already changing how the individuals will feel.
Sure.
And in the world where I was living, I kind of was behind the mask, or I was part of the very macho, like hyper-masculine culture where I couldn't be kind of myself also because I thought it was wrong. So we're creating narratives where we have more space to be ourselves. Yeah.
Do you think that, so what kind of upbringing did you have? Do you think that this way of also not being able to show, was it also connected to a not learn path? Or did you have other people around you that were everyone around you the same, and so you didn't have like a channel, a way where you could go? Was it so everything so masculine around you? Did you have parents or sisters or siblings that you could open up, or do you think that?
I think I grew up in a very feminine environment in a way that I was very close to my mother, and I was very sensitive. I have two sisters, big sister and little sister, and I grew up like, I also have a great dad that's always been there for me, but also couldn't maybe show sorrow in a way that could like I can like feel okay to show also that side of me.
That's pretty common.
That's the thing why men are like statistically even suffering of many things in society.
Yeah.
And that's why we're decided to kind of add something to that.
Yeah. Well, I also come from a bit kind of same background, and it's a generational thing that like at that you said that the world is changing and it's moving. The generation are changing.
Yeah.
So probably when we look at the past, it's the stereotype and the paradigm of the family was that the father would be the one imparting rules or being the tough one without showing any feelings. And then probably that's one reason why us, at least men, then each one define himself like they want. We have not learned the way in which like we can use this emotion, how we can express this emotion.
Yeah.
And then most likely you were also put in one extreme masculine environment, the football.
Yeah.
And then it just like, it was like a reinforcing the same kind of pattern. Don't show, be tough, be strong, don't show, don't feel. I guess that's something that happens quite normally, but...
that's true, because I was very sensitive as a kid, but then I hid it in myself, and I also hid a lot of things from people that I didn't want to show, because it was a sign of weakness in the team, for example.
But when you were there in this situation, could you talk with your mom, your sisters about this? Did you have a channel to open?
Not really. Not really. Not too much. I could have had, but also I keep a lot of stuff to myself. I was in that place. I wasn't aware probably of that. I was just like kind of going forward, and then it led to it, because also the identity of athlete, in a way, it protected me for a while. It was like a shield.
Yeah, you didn't see the rest of the stuff.
Kind of. And then when it's taken away, you live with nothing, and then you will suffer from it. And I suffered for a long time, and I'm still healing, I would say. But also the generational thing that you were talking about is a great point, because if my father couldn't show, think about if his father could show something. So I think we in the like over generational.
And if you go backward, then there are wars. And so, like, we come anyway from a background in which, like, the necessities of the days were really different.
Yeah, but still there are wars. But we can be the links between the generations for our kids. You and me, we can, like, you can show to your kids as you're, it feels like you're doing it. And also, I can now approach my dad and have very good conversations. Very, like, I can be vulnerable. Really, I'm interested of how he's doing.
What is his reaction?
I think, well, for example, when I started like very, I took it as my mission to like approach my father, and I started to hug him, and it was a Father's Day, and I felt like this Father's Day I'm gonna hug my father, whatever the situation. And when the situation came, I didn't feel like doing it, but I decided already. And when I hugged him, his face was like a child's face, like, thank you, like, this is remarkable. And of course he wanted, but it's for him it's even harder to approach me, you know. And that's where I see our generation is changing, kind of. We in between generations, and we're taking the first step and talking about the hard things. We kind of translators between the generations now in the change of, like, the whole world is changing.
Yeah, absolutely. The original question where all this started from was the moment in which you decided to open up. Did you remember an happening or something that it was kind of like, okay, now either I do this or I will self-destroy myself? One of the leading causes in men suicide, it is depression, and it's normally a consequence of keeping emotion inside, trauma inside, and not having a way to express it. Then you add alcohol, or maybe you add whatever situation, like some small fire, whatever emotion, strong emotion going on, and then they decide to take the wrong way. So did you remember a moment in which snapped into your head that this is?
It didn't snap, but it's scary, because I was going towards like very suicidal behavior, and I didn't even realize it. And then it could have been could be any path, you know. I chose the right one. I didn't do anything, but retrospective, it's kind of scary how I was going towards that in my thought, and even like in a bit of like not taking action, but there was one point it could have been happened, but I kind of choose the other way
Yeah, exactly.
And that was the turning point. And from that point, I started to question my relationships and question my relationship with alcohol, because I was medicating myself. I didn't take responsibility of myself. So from that, I realized that, okay, it was like kind of slowly healing and turning inward. And I would say that thing was that it's tough, but you kind of have to do it yourself. No one else can do it for you. You have to go into that healing. You have to, and
Exactly,
in the beginning, it's super tough. But like, there's a lot of things that help these days, and you can pick kind of the thing is good for you, and then you can, from that point, you can move forward. But that was the thing that I realized, that okay, I was there, I felt like shit, I was at my lowest, but I can choose this, and I know others can as well. And if I can share my story, maybe someone can get help from it, and they can feel like they can do it, because I think we all can. It's just up to us. And then I decided to be very open, because I feel like I have nothing to lose. I'm not afraid of losing my losing my face or my reputation, or I don't care. I want to be myself. I want change, and I believe in it, and that's why I'm doing it. And that's also probably it's authentic, and that's why it works.
Yeah, you are building your reputation on being truthful and open. So actually, you guys are getting the opposite of what you maybe feared at one point. Don't you feel you are the hero of your story?
My story. Yes.
Yeah.
It's the hero's journey.
Exactly. Yes, because when of course I can see from your face that when you go into the dark places, it still hurts.
Oh, of course.
But you came out.
Yeah.
And it's something that sometimes I feel towards myself, and it's the words of, maybe if I have someone that, or friend or whatever, that feels like that they have a certain situation of the sort that you are having, it's that like, you are the hero of your story, because you're making the change. And the moment in which you realize it, for sure, and you internally realize it, you understand that in my brain, you understand that like there was only one way that thing could have happened, and it was this one.
Yeah.
Like, thank God that I went through this.
Now I get to do this.
Exactly.
Now I get to talk. Now I get to share my story.
Yeah.
And you also, you're hero of your journey.
Yeah.
Did you go to a dark place also at one point?
Oh yes, I went many times. Actually at least a couple of times.
Okay. Do you want to share something about
I was well, the first time it was I was about 19, so I had to decide. I come from an Italian family in which the paradigm or the future and the life was seen that either you are a doctor, or you are a lawyer, or you are something to be considered respectful. And of course, respectful, it was something that my parents decided what it meant. It wasn't probably what I thought. But so then I was I didn't belong to any masculinity or so toxic environment, but still I was struggling to understand what is my space, what is my spot into the world. Of course, I also had I was enjoying alcohol, and I was enjoying partying and enjoying other substances. But anyway, and
you were enjoying.
Yeah. And so then I put myself into engineering school because I was good in mathematics, and my brain anyway is scientific. So I said like, okay, that's the thing to do. That's the only thing I can do if I want to have a future that my parents are picturing for me. And again, so it's a bit like maybe you had a talent, so you knew what you want, but then at one point the environment pushes you towards something that is not yours. And so I did a lot of, let's say, stupid stuff. I didn't follow the school, the university, and I was more concentrated into partying, and little by little I was also eroding, destroying myself inside, and not understanding where I wanted to go. So, but that, for example, at that point, I saw there like my loneliness. I couldn't connect really in a deep way to anyone. So I understood at that point, and then I will put this back into a frame. I understood at that point that I wasn't going into anything, that like my life was not going to be anything, regardless of like whether I choose to be an engineer or whatever, a plumber. So then I decided to actually start doing sport, gyms, football, actually, but not in any environment like that. And I decided that like I had to put myself into motion because I was stuck in my life. I was in between choices, and I decided, okay, I start now to do stuff, so little by little I will maybe understand rather than stay stuck. And that helped, and then I changed and I studied economics, and then all good. But for me, when I was young, when I was 7 years old, my parents divorced, and it was quite a traumatic situation, and they have handled things their own way. That, of course, I can say that it wasn't the most mature way of handling the family. And my father, as a masculine person, of course, it maybe belonged to that kind of generation, wasn't really open towards me and my sister. So it was more of not a guest, of course, our father, but not someone that we knew that much. So it was difficult then to connect with him, especially when there was the crisis, and then he went away and all that. So it was difficult, and my mom was hurt, of course, and she was alone. So it wasn't that easy. And for many years, I've been kind of I isolated myself inside me to protect from the environment that I had. And I was the kid in school that was not alone, but I was hanging out with the weirdest people, that maybe like 2 or 3 small groups, with the emarginated, the one that were put aside. So during those years, I've had my dark time, or like this, as you have felt that like you are alone, no one understands you, you are the only one with this, why on me, and all that. So I actually, at that time also, because I've had, due to this situation and my only possible physical reaction, I had to close myself into me. I mean, at that time I didn't have a brain to decide what do I do. So myself, my brain, my body went into that kind of state. Then I had like physical problems, that I couldn't eat anymore, and so I was getting sick. So at that time, well, I was already 10, but I had to go to therapy. There was no other choice, because you are 10, you're not even able to hurt yourself, you don't understand anything. So maybe for me that was also a lifesaver, in the sense that like at that time I connected to myself, and I connected to myself at so early stage that towards all through my life, also when I had this problem of like what will be the adult Giacomo, I kind of already had a mental path that I've learned at that time to like go through my emotion, go through my ideas, go through the situation that comes to me. And then when in a older life age, like now, and
how old are you?
I'm 40.
40.
Yeah. And then I went through divorce, and I have 3 kids. So this, in Latin, forma mentis, this way of how my brain works, that I've learned at 10, has helped me to give always like, gave me tools to understand that like my emotions are good. Even if the emotions are bad, my emotions for me are easy to say and to explain, or I don't have any problem into go into a therapist to talk about it, because I was at 10 years old already with a therapist. So everything for me, it's kind of logical, and it's help. Emotions are a tool. Emotion convey problems, and they are the way out, even if they are the darkest. Even if you, when my divorce process started, I immediately started every week to go running like twice and train. So I knew that like, okay, now first let's keep my body in movement, and then I go to the therapist. So I know that I have to put my emotion and my brain into shape. So I knew exactly like this is the process, and I remember that I was saying to myself like, okay, I don't know how this will go, I know that anyway I will go out from this, and I trust the process, because it's kind of like I've done it already. And so this probably are 3 times in my life, when I was so young, then the adulthood, when I started to change to adult, and then the divorce. There are 3 heavy situations, emotionally and psychologically and then physical. But I, thank God, have learned the tool and the tools, the set of tools to do it. And so also sharing. Of course, you have you weekly meet and you do these kind of things.
Yeah.
Sometimes in your life you might not. When I had kids, or they were born, you might have phases of your life in which you are kind of detached a bit from your feelings. But the fact that I have feelings and I talk about feelings with people has always been something that belongs to me. And this reading that, like, okay, even the worst thing that is coming at you, it's part of this growth that will lead you to something else.
Exactly.
And sometimes I say to myself that there is a Giacomo 2.0 there, or 3.0. So a new version, it's updating. And I've kind of like accept what is coming at me.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing your story.
Yeah, welcome. Of course, I don't go in. You understand it. It's a young kid, 10 years old, going through that, and I had like this physical consequences important. So, of course, you can understand how dark certain places have been, and some have been even unconscious. And I don't have memories of my life from a span of years. I have 0 memories.
Okay.
It's kind of like erased from my head.
Okay.
So it was that strong on my psyche that I had to erase them.
Sorry about those.
Yeah, well, of course, yeah. But again.
But you have the tools now. You went through.
Exactly.
You find yourself again.
Yes.
Back to yourself.
Yes.
Because that's where we begin and end. And we go back to there also.
Yes.
Always.
And I know that myself, it's just temporary. Tomorrow and in 5 years I will be a different one, and another shit will come in my life. But I think that aside that maybe not everyone can learn the tools, I think that what it's really important that you are doing, and why also I'm sharing, is that, and I think it's a really important point in what you're doing, is that people has to realize that they are not the only one thinking stuff or feeling some emotions.
Yeah.
Because you might feel that you are the black sheep inside the herd, but actually everyone has their own black spots. And that's something that I think it's if you get that through to people, that's already like it's the biggest gift you can give to a community. You share your stories, they have all personal things. I see your topics that you are talking about.
Yeah.
But the fact that like you are allowed, let the other understand that they are allowed and they are not lonely. They're not alone.
We always say together, not alone.
Yeah.
And because it's so common, we think we're alone with these thoughts. No one is alone.
Yeah.
No one. Really.
And this is something that like, of course, everything started from this masculinity, but this doesn't change into women. This doesn't change in whatever gender you're talking about, because all of us have this feeling that like we are the only one going through something, and then there is always this why me, and like how will I do. So this pattern it belongs to every single human.
We're just human.
Yes, exactly. So
well said.
Of course, it's like fantastic because men seem to, and masculine man, whatever we want to define manhood, but it seems that the one that suffered the most, that they've been like slightly lagging behind.
Yeah.
But
we needed the most, men.
Yeah.
But we can also, there is a lot to take responsibility. It's like we get to do this.
Yeah.
It's my like over of I got to do this, is I get to do this. I'm still here.
Yeah.
I'm grateful.
Yeah. Do you know that anyway, if you think this masculinity, it has served our humankind quite well. And if you consider it, now I'm going to a side track, but if you consider it from an evolutionary perspective, and we go back many million years ago, even if we want, the trait that was needed for men was to be fearless, strong. Of course, we know that, especially in the past, men were doing the hunting and men were providing certain kind of services to the community, and women another services. So it was quite pretty, maybe much more separated, the rolling and the roles. So men needed to be strong, fearless, body strong, and also mentally strong to face certain challenges. So we have come from an heritage of evolution, of millions of years of evolutions, that we were programmed, our brain, to be that. And then, of course, now that we have a society in which actually we are much more equal, we still carry the traits of this past. And it made sense that we are like that. So in that sense, there is also nothing wrong in being masculine and having that kind of traits.
Yeah. It's perfectly all right.
Yeah.
Those traits are still okay.
But we are not facing any more like mammoths, and maybe it's not.
But what we need right now in the world is more compassion and vulnerability and openness and these kind of things that we can add to this masculinity. Like, for example, Tommi Korpela, legend actor, was in our show last week, and we talked about body image and the pressure of the looks of the men. And he said, well, like, you can be very masculine, but it doesn't have to do anything with violence anyhow, or like being oppressing, or like or like you can use the attributes to good stuff, but you can also think like power as being soft. Softness can be also powerful. And I think these are the things we are not amplifying a lot or allowing even. And that comes to the vulnerability of like being able to be vulnerable. That is a strength. That is like a superpower even. I say it that way.
Yeah, I agree. And also if you are, I don't know if you are aware, but also in the business world, there has been also the same evolution about managers and leaders from the, let's say, from a tyrant, so from someone that is really strict and you do as I say, to the role of the big boss became more of a supportive function, and now we talk about emotional intelligence and the future leader, what kind of qualities they have to have, and empathy, emotional intelligence, and support other. It's something that actually now is mentioned at the top of the list. It's not that you are like someone that gets shit done, and before it was like be tough and get shit done, and you are at the top. So that in many spaces in this world, things are going towards that direction. One way that normally I have to bond with people is rather show myself first, and show compassion, or show that like I open myself to a certain degree, depending if it's a work situation. Of course, I don't talk about maybe me crying, but anyway, I open up myself, and then normally there is always the same response backward.
Yeah.
And then starts the bonding.
Exactly. And this brings me to one very masculine trait of like crying, what you just said. And for example, today I came here with the bus, and I was in the bus listening to music, and I had this feeling of like being very proud in a way, or like this moment was really powerful for me, and the whole body felt like I wanted to cry. This sensation came, but I still put it back in because I was in the public transportation and I was going to a business meeting. So that's why I couldn't allow myself to feel in some kind of ways, and I'm still pushing it back. So I think we have a lot of still so internalized, once again, masculine traits that we don't need, that if we can leave behind in a way, like start to be self-aware and just like in society and overall like show these traits even in public. If I could cry, if people could like show their emotions wherever they are, I think it would be good, because we're pushing. And then when we're pushing, we're kind of suppressing things, and when we're suppressing, we're kind of defensive, And that's and then, for example, in conflict situations, we can be very like these masculine traits can amplify, and then we can be very like even dangerous or like defensive and ego driven.
Yeah.
And all that. And then if we allow the soft like compassion and all the stuff you were just saying, it gives us so much more to be without trying to prove ourselves in a way.
Yeah. Why you didn't cry? You were afraid that someone would see you.
I cried a bit, but like it was so powerful feeling that I could have like cried openly, but I still, when I get it, something in me pushes back, and it's just like automation.
But also you were probably in the wrong environment in that sense that
probably, yeah.
It's
or is it wrong?
It works in two ways, because one, it's how the environment feels you and how you feel the environment. So probably if you would have been in a situation like your friends on Tuesday, for sure you knew that like the channel works in two ways. You give and you're given. Maybe you didn't think, or you thought that the environment will not give you anything extra.
Well, actually, yesterday in our event, one guy told that his father passed away 6 years ago, and the same reaction came, very strong, and tears came to my eyes, but I still put it away, even though the whole situation was
allowing you to.
Was allowing, and still I'm putting it, and that is just a powerful, I mean, like a strong sign of that we still within the group of dudes, we have these masks. We are part of the hunters still in a way.
Maybe in the past there was a woman that was in the same situation, but she felt exactly the same way. I kind of feel that to show things like that, I need trust. And trust is not connected to my masculinity or my genitals, for whatever matters.
That's a good point. But do you cry in front of your dudes? If here would be like 10 of your closest, I mean 5 closest guys.
I've cried in front of my dudes, yes. But it's for sure it's because you know that you. Yes, now you tricked me, because for sure, because you know that no one will judge you. But that judgment anyway is not connected to the fact that we are only male. It's connected to the fact that like to show yourself so openly, it requires, I think, anyway, trust that the other are like partly not being judged, but partly also that they are going to be there for you. It's a complicated puzzle, and that's why I think that masculinity is not necessarily. But we and you, maybe we are so forward in this evolution, and we are in touch with our emotions. So definitely, it's important for men not to avoid being in touch with their feelings, and that's the main point. Then after that, to learn how to open and trust, that's even like an extra plus. So I think it's demanding quite a lot also from yourself, because the fact that you can connect with your emotions suddenly with a song, it means that you are an open book to yourself, and that's if everyone would be like that, we would be already like made a huge leap forward. Because now people are like you were doing, denying it, saying, "What the fuck are you doing? No, you cannot do it." Like like this is nonetheless like stupid. So we're kind of like evolving quite fast here in this.
Yeah, I think it just like started this great transformation in the world. I think it really took spin after Corona. It really evolved after Corona because of the stopping. And about stopping, the interesting thing is that the pain stops when we are feeling something. Like, for example, in your story, you felt the pain, and it led you to the process of pain awakes you.
So you think Corona has been a boost?
Definitely, yeah, because we had to stop. We had to turn inward. We realized what we are doing and what is good for you and what is not. We stayed home. We had to stop, and we kind of noticed what is wise, what we're doing, and how we're tricking ourselves, keeping ourselves busy, and when we just stayed home, we kind of collide with the things that we're actually running away from.
It's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good point. I never thought it in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why in the middle of a huge transformation in the world, like there is a lot of healing movement and talking about therapy and emotions, and people are now getting burned out because of it's also related to the crisis of like lack of meaning. We don't see meaning. World is burning at the same time there is wars, and we're trying to maximize what, like money, what money.
But yeah, I always blame this on social medias and how superficial social medias are. But
and now even the chat GPT AI is the next thing, but that's a whole nother topic.
Yeah, but so you went then to therapy?
Yeah, I went to, and I feel like this Jäbät and Tunteet has been kind of a group therapy also.
Yeah, absolutely, like, that's clear.
It's so precious for me and all of the guys, and but I still need psychotherapy, and I wanna develop myself and like continue the journey. Are you going to?
Yeah. I've been, as I told you, I've been already when I was 10, so I've been.
Yeah, but now are you still?
Yes, at the moment I am going. Yes.
Perfect. What kind of works for you?
Well, my therapist is from Jung theory.
Okay.
So, and in Jung there is this feminine side of people.
Yeah.
He talks about that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting. But when this journey inside you, I believe it will never end. But does it go against the fact, or when enough thinking about yourself is enough, and when is the moment in which you say to yourself, like, that's actually me, I accept myself?
Yeah.
Because that journey for some people might be quite short, kind of like, okay, I'm a dickhead, that's it, I'm myself, like, take it or leave it. And then other people like you actually go digging and scrapping, and then the own therapy, your own thinking, group therapy, and you made a job, a meaning of your life out of it. When it's enough for everyone, not only for you in your case.
Well, I think you are the only judge when it's enough. You will decide, because I've seen people like not going deep, or like distracting themselves and just escaping the stuff and not confronting themselves, and that's also perfectly fine, but then you will eventually have to go through it in some ways. But also I've seen people going into very deep and like digging, and it kind of doesn't stop.
Exactly.
You go into the very depths, and
it's
even
a
can be
rabbit hole.
Yeah, it can be like very also tough to go into that. It can take you in the existential place where you are thinking about like meaning of anything, or like in very like extreme philosophies or
you
whatever.
Get paranoid.
Even
paranoia,
that,
because,
even that.
Like, this guy is talking to me like this. Why? What did I say? Or did I show too much? And it can become like a vicious circle.
And I've been into that rabbit hole, and that was enough for me for this round. Miro 1.75 or whatsoever, going towards 2, and now I don't have to be there. Now I found a good meaning, and I'm working on it, and I'm in the moment of like trying to be myself and enjoy, like, day by day, becoming more like Miro, and enjoying that and doing what I think I need to do right now. And then I can go a bit here to the other direction, or then like, I don't want to escape anymore. I'm tired of running away. I run so much. I've been running so much in my life, like physically and like metaphorically.
Yes.
I don't want to anymore. I want to be me now. And then when I get to be me and I'm happy about it, I can find a place where is the happiness for me, and I get to decide also that. But I cannot oppress or like do harm for anyone else, I think. And in that point, if you will be in a good place, but still on the way, which is the reward, which I said in the beginning.
Are you able to picture how do you see your emotions in you? I can tell. Do you see your emotion like when they go through you? Now we're talking about shiver, that it's, of course, it's a physical reaction. But when I feel feelings, or when I connect to my feelings, maybe with the music or whatever it is, the situation, for me, I work in the boat and business, but for me it is a sea, and the sea starts to get wavy, and I am the person on the raft, sometimes on a safer boat, and I'm the one sometimes that goes diving down and see what's at the bottom. So that's my emotions in my head, because maybe I'm a visual person. It is a sea that moves and has storms, has shores. Sometimes there is sun, sometimes there is a storm, waves, and sometimes I am in a safer or less safer place. Sometimes I'm in the middle of nothing and I don't know what is the direction, but the sea is there. My feelings are always there, and I'm navigating. Do you have a picture of yourself?
That kind of picture, I don't think it like that, but I like that, and that's like a good metaphor for life overall. But now came like traffic, like
Okay, with cars.
For example, I'm driving and I go into the intersection, and I can decide if I wanna be very selfish and like just go and with my status and all, or then I can give space to others, or like help and like give way and be kind and exist in the world. But well, traffic is one way to think about it, but I don't think about it. I think it's a roller coaster. I think it goes up and down, and that's just life. It doesn't get easier necessarily, but you will get to the next point, like Giacomo 3.0, and all that. And I think that you will just like, no one else will get to say what is your like. We have our own paths, and there is infinite amount of like to the paths, but you are the one who gets to decide which path you are on.
When you were talking about crying, I was listening to the episode when you were talking about crying, and I was pleased and also surprised, because instead of becoming the talking about like difficult situation and crying for tragedies, you were talking also a lot about crying for happy stuff.
Yeah.
And I realized how, because of maybe the story I've told you, and the fact that the trauma and tragedy and difficulties belong to this way of thinking, approaching, and going through. I don't have the tool to access that crying for happiness, and I've never done it. Even if my kids 3 were born, I succeeded in some stuff or whatever, I never.
Yeah.
And suddenly I felt this kind of like, wow, that can happen.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking like, will I ever be able to do that? It's something that like, when I see this sea of emotion, it's kind of like I've been scouting around and checking like, where is that wave? That wave of happiness that makes me cry.
Yeah.
And funnily enough, I haven't. Well, funnily enough, I don't know, but I've not encountered that wave.
Have you allowed that to yourself?
That's something that that's something that I also struggle in. I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe I have not.
Yeah. I don't know. That's also personal. But when you describe the ocean and the sun, I see just sunset and just that like collateral beauty, overall beauty of the sun, and just like existing and being here. It's just so beautiful itself. It's one reason to cry for joy.
Was it you that you cried for your sister's kid?
Yeah.
That was born. Because now we have been going through quite thick emotions, and your cries is mine. But men and masculinity, anyway, we can also talk the fact that like there are all these good things that can be shown, like real genuine happiness, and crying for being happy.
Yeah.
This belongs anyway to the all the color of our emotions. So we can show the suffering, but we can also show this pure joy, jumping high because we are really happy.
Yeah.
And it's something that like I realized that like, hey, in my color scheme, I'm missing those.
Yeah, but they are open for you if you decide so.
Yeah. Actually, my journey on that,
Yeah.
it's been started for, I don't know, maybe, I think it was 1 month ago that I listened to that.
Oh.
And I've been not dwelling maybe negatively, but on this, I think I'm waiting for that wave. And when it comes, if I feel it, I'll want it all.
Then you will ride the wave when it comes. And it will come, I will assure you. And also, I learned this, I would say, like, it's about way of thinking or mindset, because I learned it within our community. Because there is a lot of like diversity in our group and different ethnicities and cultural like upbringing. And there is such a strong, for example, in Congolese culture, this joie de vivre, like the joy of life. And I think I learned from the guys that I didn't have in my Finnish kind of mindset, or like traditional white Finnish mindset. And I was lacking that. But when I like realized that, I learned kind of amplify that it is even possible. And from that I learned it through this. So this is also a very good concrete example of how diversity, equity, inclusion is super important, and it can bring so many things that you don't even think that you can learn from. It's super, and I think we're lacking still in Finland a lot in communities and like diversity, equity, inclusion. But it's getting better. It's getting better.
Well, also this podcast and the meaning is that trying to build some bridges between communities, and of course the Finnish language, it's a big barrier for many.
True.
But the idea it's to bond different groups together.
Yeah, I have actually a partner, Russian partner, and she asked that if it's possible to be a therapist practitioner only in English. Have you looked into that? Is it?
I think that it popped up to my feeds. Maybe because we are friends on the social media. But my understanding is that you need to have use the make certificates in Finnish or Swedish, and you have to go through school and make exams in that language, regardless whether if you are going to serve English speaking or whatever other language. You have to go through the bureaucracy.
And this we need to change.
It makes no sense.
It makes no sense, and we need to be also like open and global and like open-minded to the world. Cannot turn in anymore. We kind of need to. These are things we need to increase in business and in life overall. I
kind of see that you will not vote for perussuomalaisia.
No, definitely not. My heart is somewhere else.
Me neither. I wanted still to touch this concept of this social self and social, let's say, I don't know, like a cloth, like that you put on top of yourself, and then what's your inside you for real. Because when you were talking about your story about this crying, anyway, you were in a social situation, so you kind of like adapt to what society and what is the social Miro looking like. But then inside you have this other part that you discovered deeply that would drive you to something else. So there is this dichotomy, there is this fight between, and what I see a lot, not only in Finnish society, but Finnish society is really heavy on this, that people develop their social person, so with skills, with also work and humor and body. There is a lot of body-centric like culture. So be fit and train and do. But then if you go scratch the surface, you will have to eventually find the internal person, the intimate person. But there is not so much connection, and the intimate person doesn't come out and show that much. And that's partly, I think, if we think about suicide or loneliness and all that, speaks to the fact that like society pushes you somewhere, or you have to develop into a certain way, in certain path, but then all the other part is left behind. Do you see things happening in this way, that like I think that the two persons should be bonded together. So this social person and this intimate person.
That was a complex question, but a good one. I don't know. I mean, I have struggled with this one for sure. You talked about the body image a bit and like being fit and all, but I think I've been kind of in a role in a way that is like I have a role when I go into the situation. So I have been not differentiating these two, like social or like career. I would speak maybe through career Miro and like myself Miro. And I'm not sure if I'm answering your question, but I think in Finland we have this mindset where we push towards the career all the time, and we're like seeking for safety and not taking risk and not like trying. I think it's about that everything is so good here and so safe. We have this good environment. We say that we have the happiest country for the sixth time, and that's amazing. We should be proud of it. But I see it as a possibility that we have this safety net, but we're too cautious. We're too in that career-centric mindset, which is seeking safe basically all the time, and it's very privileged, and it's not taken into consider more intimate stuff that can be so we are very work based, like career centric, and we don't balance the work between ourselves and we don't balance the like what the work we do for career and what we do for ourselves. So we should focus more on ourselves first and improve and go within, and like
I can tell you from the eyes, from my eyes as a foreigner. For example, I see this statistic or this survey that Finland is the happiest country in the world, and then you see that everything looks perfect. You know, as you said, like also system works, people have work, social services, social security. Everyone can buy his own summer house, mökki, and there is beautiful nature, and things rolls forward like pretty steadily, and people can have time to go doing sport and do other things. But then you have like the highest suicide rate, and then you have like me as a foreigner. For me, it's difficult to get Finnish friends, like real friends, because like it stays into this kind of like it stays into the level that you can have a survey measuring it. But then if you go deeper and you go into that side in which like this intimate side of yourself, it works in two ways. It works like how much you check yourself and how much you allow other to enter, in both way. So when you have to then, I see it in this way, like also making friends with Finnish, it's you can befriend in the social side of them, going out, having a beer, go to see football, you know. But then how much they allow you to go inside them, or how much like they know about their inside, it's pretty limited.
Yeah, that's true.
And then comes like you lose work, you lose your spouse, or you lose your husband, you divorce, some crisis, and then there is this risk of like suicide
and being alone.
Being alone suddenly, and drinking. So it's kind of like the drop. It's
there is no
huge
community in this kind of lack of community. I would say Nosh also always, our founder says always that we have intelligent people in Finland, but we don't have wise people. We have intelligence, but we don't have wisdom. What we would need is wisdom. And
that's what I said.
Nosh is a super interesting guy. I think at some point
unfortunately he couldn't come.
He's been a lot of like there's been a lot going on.
You're developing and with this community, and you're pushing boundaries forward.
We're launching our company Marmori next week, so 6th of April. I don't know where this is gonna go out, but maybe at some point it would be cool to you guys to catch up, or you can come to our event, or part of our community and all that. And also Nasim Selmani, our host, is like an amazing guy, also doing great work in the Day is the company.
But So, do you think if I connect to what we were saying before, do you think people or Finnish people are afraid of feelings because when you would go into that intimate part, they start to be afraid of what they feel? Or why do you think there is this resistance into allowing others and you yourself going into that?
That's a tough question.
Because it doesn't belong to masculinity.
No.
It's throughout the whole society.
Yeah, I think this is more just how we are as a young culture still. We kind of someone just said a few days ago that Finnish is like cultural development country still. We're still developing our culture. I think it has to do something with that, and also the fact that we were under Russia and under Sweden. We don't have we're
true
not,
identity.
Yeah, we don't. I mean, we have very strong, but still, it's like we're not very confident about it, and we're not very good marketers, of ourselves, and like maybe even not believing in us. But I think culturally we are developing also fast, and we have the intelligence which we have in tech and all. We have great people here. We have high integrity. And for example, my partner says that Finns are the best people in the world and trustworthy.
That's true.
I don't know. It's just something I've heard, but there's also a lot of opportunities if we open a bit. It's I think about the opening ourselves a bit more to the world, and like we have a great country of like a lot of possibilities.
Yeah, potentials are immense that I can see.
Yeah,
absolutely.
We kind of not just yet collecting, or not collecting, but like taking everything out of it yet.
Yeah.
But that's a journey as well.
Yeah.
I think.
What would be the sign? I mean, of course, your journey it's still forward, and you will never end this and never stop this. Of course, it's the fuel of your life. But do you have a goal in your head, like a sign, a situation in which it will tell you that, like, okay, we are succeeding? I mean, what I'm onto, it's working. Or did you have it already? If you have people coming and saying to you that, like, you are changing their life.
I haven't thought about it in that way. I'm now, kind of so in the middle of my own process. So I'm just enjoying the ride, and I think I have this mindset, or I've been looking into a lot of this ikigai term, of Japanese term of like the reason of being. I'm kind of.
Can you open it up a bit?
Ikigai is like a ancient word for like reason for being, and it consists of what do you love to do, where do you can get money from, what the world needs, and I don't I don't remember the fourth one, but in the middle of that there is this ikigai, and when it fails, you will feel the sense of purpose that your life is complete in a way. And that's very interesting. I don't think that life has to be perfect, but I have been seeking for my own truth and what I want to do after the past that didn't work out. And I, as I said, I don't need to be ready, but if I can help and if I can leave something behind, I'm happy.
You left it already. I think you. Yeah. It's what a master plan. What a difficult thing. I will have to look into that. My experience is that when I walk towards this updated version of myself, I never know when it is updated. Normally, I get to know it afterward. And immediately came to my mind that like the journey, it's always fantastic, and it's nice to dwell in it and think about it and do in it. But maybe partly you are already somewhere closer than what you think.
I don't know, man. I've been having this feeling of shedding now, like a snake on spring rocks, like shedding the old skin, and like maybe some kind of symbol of rebirth or something on the way.
Great. Miro, thank you. I think you are doing for the community, as you said, quite a lot, and I know you are getting already really nice feedbacks. We need more of you. Hopefully, I can channel all this to many other English speaking people, so that they can get to know you. Maybe you should make some events in English then at one point.
Definitely.
So you get also that community on board.
We will do it.
Yeah, because we all need the same kind of support.
Yeah.
And sharing.
And we're trying to do also the subtitles and maybe even episodes in English soon. So stay tuned. And thank you, Giacomo. It was lovely to talk with you.
The same. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.